And good evening, everybody. This is Michael Filigera. I am with logicalsignals.com and also tradershelpingtraders.com. And this is the Elliott wave update for the S&P 500 for Monday, August 23rd, 2021. The S&P continued to move higher today, but what surprised me a little bit is that it accelerated higher. And I was anticipating that the market would be very slow and rather shallow and not move very far as the market waited for the big news from the Fed meeting, which is being held in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, later this week on Thursday and Friday, with the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell having his press conference and announcing any findings or results from that meeting on Friday morning at 10 o'clock Eastern. Nonetheless, the S&P did move to a new all-time high today. Now, that does not change our count. And as I explained yesterday, I am leaving this high at 4,476.50 as the completion point for all of the advancing sequences from minute to minor to intermediate to primary to cycle. And in fact, I could throw a cycle 3 right there as well. And then that would just put the icing on the cake in terms of what we're now confronting. And so I still believe that we're in the very beginning stages of a supercycle wave 4 corrective decline. Now, what is going to be in that are going to be 3 waves of an A, a B, and a C wave of cycle degree. And then within that A wave cycle degree are going to be either 5 waves of primary degree or an ABC of primary degree to form that wave A, and then on down. So where I've started is on my smallest degree that I count normally in terms, and that is the minute degree. So what I have put in and now labeled is this first ABC off of that high down. And I'm labeling that as minute, wave A, B, and C to complete minor, wave A. Now, what that does for us is because this is a 3-wave, basically flat, and it sets us up cleaner for what actually is happening. And due to the nature of how all of these ended with a subdivision or subdividing within the subdividing and then a very quick 5 to new highs, the observations made by Elliott during that time was that this high or this cycle would be doubly retraced. It would be retraced twice. And here's the first retracement. And now what he also included in that observation is that often within the interim rally phase, in this case, the B wave would often go and move to new highs above the completion point for the previous 5. And that was right here. Now, it has done that today and still requires additional rally before it is complete. So with the use of Fibonacci relationships between the waves, that he also notated that this irregular B wave would often, if it's going to move above and create a new high or a new low to make it irregular, it would end up putting in this case, an advance that would come in between 1.236 times the length of that A wave to 1.382 times the length of that A wave. Those levels are 4,507, I'm going to call it, up to 4,526, so 525, 526. We have one last level all the way up at 4,556, and that would be where the B wave would be equal to 1.618 times the length of this A wave. So today, we broke to a new high and we reached that resistance at 44.86. In fact, the high was 44.85 point. This is 25, so I'm going to say 25. So it missed it by about 3/4 of a point, but close enough. As far as I can see, it reached that resistance level and it held and it tested it once, and as it formed a very small correction that I likely will be labeling as wave 4. And that will be right here. So you can see the subdivisions here. Subminute wave 1, subminute wave 2, subminute wave 3. Again, we're just counting a 5-wave structure, but wave 1 divided into 5, wave 3 divided into 5, wave 4 is dividing into 3 as it should, wave 2 divided into 3. So it's a very clean 5-wave structure, but how quickly we are getting to that top. And that is what kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought, wow, they have all week to get up there, but it seems that they're doing most of it today. So, and it was not super fast, but once things got going, from our opening, which would have been right in here, there were straight up, basically straight up from the opening, and it just did not stop. But I would just double check to see what the volume was on the full day. You could see it didn't break 1 million contracts in the mini contract for the S&P. And if we add the two together, it got maybe 1.4, 1.5 million contracts, whereas normally the mini contract, the basic contract for the S&P ES is well over 1 million. So this was rather light volume. And that I find is always dangerous, particularly on a finishing move, but it is a corrective move. So they can be lesser volume, move faster, unpredictable. So again, as we look at the characteristics of a B wave, B waves are unpredictable, they're deceptible, they're deceiving, and this one carried all of the above. And that is what we got. Deceiving in terms of where was it going to stop, we would not normally expect. If I hadn't seen it coming yesterday, I would never have determined that this is going to be the case, that we would go up and create new highs so quickly after putting the last ones in a week ago. So last Monday, this is where this completed. And so we're repeating that pattern of going straight up, reaching the high, and then rejecting that. Now, if we do, and we reject it in similar fashion, it's going to produce, it'll produce all the highs that we need to make it in irregular, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult, because what I'm looking for from this is, as I said yesterday, a crushing C wave, a C wave that just takes all of this back in a very fast fashion, very similar to this, but now we need to move it up and increase its size. But that's what I would expect it to look like, but be forming 5 waves all of its own. So if it would be 1, 2, this would be the third, a little 4, and then another 5 down. So it could be very, very crushing. And as I discussed yesterday, I really would be looking for this particular section of it to at least get us down to this 4. So, and that again, remember, we're counting a super cycle wave 4 correction, and now it's within the cycle wave A of this correction. And so we should get within this super cycle wave A down, there are going to be either 5 waves of cycle degree, or it's going to form an ABC of cycle degree. So we're even breaking this down even further in an attempt to determine what really it is doing. So we're taking this down right now to the minor degrees, to where I'm beginning this whole sequence. and that would be a minor A, and this would be minor B, and then we have a minor C wave, and that's going to form wave A on the intermediate level. And then from there, we then can check again for wave B to see what pattern it's going to take and what that will look like. So we still got a lot of work out in front of us, but right now what we do need to do is to continue to move higher to complete this irregular B wave, a minor irregular B wave. And I am looking for that zone, which, as we discussed last night, just continues to reappear. 4,506 or 4,507. And we have where this particular C wave would be 200% in length times the A wave. And that comes in right below that at 4,506. So we have 6 to 7, 4,506 to 4,507 is a resistance zone, and we have 2 resistance levels right there. So that's the beginning of the zone. That could complete this whole irregular B, and look out, here comes a C wave. My feeling, though, is that it's going to likely come up into the most common, which is 1.382, and that comes in at 45.26 to 45.31. And up at that level, this C wave would be 2.382 times the length of the A wave. We're getting it when it's getting into these higher levels. Yes, as long as they continue to fall within the Fibonacci relationship. So in terms of like 1.382, 2.382, those are related, and they could go right here. 200 to 1.2236. It's a stretch, but if that's what happens, that's what happens. Now we have to continue to carry the possibilities or the potential for this C wave to reach all the way up to 4,556. So the whole zone remains the same. And it's about a 50-point zone. But don't forget, the market did move nearly 50 points today. So if we can do that today, why couldn't it do it tomorrow? So we have to realize that, yes, this is all possible. And again, really with no news other than existing home sales. And that's what came out this morning, existing home sales. Now tomorrow, I believe we have GDP and a couple of others. And then, we do have some, they are market moving figures, but I don't know how much emphasis is going to be put on them or how they'll be interpreted in terms of, well, what does that mean for interest rates, et cetera, if we get some inflationary figures, et cetera, coming into Thursday and Friday, that's going to have influence on what the market's going to do in anticipation of what the Fed will say at the end of the week. That's what we're waiting for. So I did not expect it to go quite this far, this quickly on day one, but here we are, and this is what it did. So labeling it as such, we have within the B wave, we have minute wave A, minute wave B, and now we're putting in a minute C wave to complete the minor B wave. Now, whether that ends here, or even here, yet to be seen. We will continue to track it because essentially what we're looking for is 5 waves up. So if this actually does hold, and we do have a 3-wave, it's not very small, but we still have a very small 3-wave structure up here. If that holds and we build and we go back above 4,486, then we are up, and this will be considered the 4, and we'll be in that 5th wave. Now, what that 5th wave is going to look like is it's going to break down into its own 5. And I would imagine that it could look something like this, or even something like this. Right now, wave 3 is the longest, as it should be. And wave 1 is the shortest. So wave 5 can come in, definitely come in. This was 500-point rally. actually 61, 62 point rally. Excuse me, I know it's 500, like a 62-point rally. If we get a 62-point rally off of here, we're up and above 4,000, but we're up at that 30 level. So you can see if we just repeat wave one, we're up here. That's exactly where I expect it to go. Now, whether it does all of that tomorrow, well, yet to be seen. Because usually then what comes after that is that's the end. Now we're looking for a decline, and we're looking for quite the severe decline to come in and basically correct all of this plus what we've already done in terms of that huge 5-wave structure. So there's a lot going on as far as the markets are concerned. And we're not going to, escape it because it's just been so abnormally sloppy working this all out. Now, this is a little bit cleaner in terms of the moves are a little bit cleaner and doing what they're supposed to be doing versus just zigzagging and jagging its way up and down. So I'm going to look for that to continue. Now, the fact that how small this is and how big this is just tells us the degree that we're doing, our degrees. And because it's minor degrees, so the minute sit in between the minor. And then we have the additionals happening here. Now, upside, again, we stop really having a lot of relationships in between here. I will likely, once that wave 4, I can mark it as complete, then I will add one additional reading for the 5th wave. And it would be, I would be connecting the bottom or the starting point for the subminute wave 3 to the subminute wave 4, and that'll give us the indications of where 5. In fact, I can put that in now. It'll just be temporary because this would be on the basis that the market does not come back down and break below 44.75. So if I were to go and do that now, it's going to clog up the chart, but here we go. Let's take a look. I'm going to put that up to that 3, which is right there. And this is going to be down here at 75. Okay, so now pulling that open. So it's going to be these levels right here. Bing, bing, bing. Here's the 618, 45.10. That works. 45.15, 45.20, and then 100% sits right up at 45.31. So now we have a third, we have actually 4. We have 0.786 at 45.20. Then we have 1.382 at 45.25. Then we have on the 5th wave within the minute wave C, that comes in at 45.31, and then the small subminute wave 5 would equal 100% of the minute wave, subminute wave 3 at 45.32. So that zone, 20, 25, 31, 32, right there. That's where I am going to be looking for this to finish. Now, whether it does it tomorrow or whether it has a slow day tomorrow and has a little pickup on Wednesday or whatever the situation is, this is where I'm looking for this to complete. And once it is done, I'm going to label it, and then we'll see what happens. Because the only other choice that I have is I go back and redo everything, because now we got to reconfigure, is if this really is going to be the start of another larger bull leg up. I don't necessarily see it at this juncture. Once again, market is the market, and this is the way it is. And it is a major top. And the topping process can be quite difficult at times. But I'm still pretty satisfied. I've gone back several times and taken a look at all of our levels and how this is all worked out. And it all just continues to fit with what is actually going on. Come on, just do it. Tell you this thing is like crazy there, but still doesn't give me anything. So I'm still pretty satisfied with how this is all being counted out. So this is where I'm going to stop for right now. We don't need to go into any great detail. So upside, again, we have our levels. And it could just march its way up there. It could be fast, like again today. It could be slower. We could have more sideways moves where the correction just kind of just waffles around the sideways and takes a lot more time. So all kinds of things can happen, as is what I really was expecting today. But we got zipped. We got straight up there, and that's what happened. Downside, I think, should be limited. Now, from here, I would be surprised. But if we start to break down, where we're going to have to break down to where I would have to call like this possibly being the completion point would be this 44.55. If the market breaks down with 44.55 with some intensity, excuse me, that's the wrong level. I was wrong. It's going to be 44.41, but I'll even give it down to 44.38. Below 44.38, nah, don't want to go there. And then if it starts to break down below the A wave, it's done. It's over. We're getting out of the way and letting this market do its thing. So basically 44.39. That's where I'm going to put that marker. 44.39. Everything in between, we'll figure it out. But 44.39, I have to start to think that the tops are in again, and we're off to the next corrective 5 waves down. And that's going to be it for today. The next update will be on Tuesday, the 24th.